Are you tired of situationships and ready for commitment? In this video, we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest mistakes that women are making that are preventing him from committing. And be sure to watch until the very end because I'm going to be going over the #1 strategy to get him to commit within 30 days. So if you have no idea who I am, if you're new here, my name is Kiana Williams. I am a life and relationship coach, and essentially healing happens here. Healing starts here. This is the place where women can come to help them understand how to meet the objectives and the goals that they have set for their life as it pertains to dating. So we're going to be debunking a lot of the myths, a lot of the misconceptions that women have around dating. And men, if you're watching, I encourage you to chime in. Let us know what your perspective is on some of these different topics that we talk about. Let's get into the video. So the #1 reason why he's not committing is that you're too accessible. And I want you to really think about this one. It's very, very difficult to appreciate and cherish and value something that you always have access to. It's kind of like the phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder, because you realize all that comes with having that thing when it's no longer available. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end. But if you're always at his beck and call, if you're always immediately responding to his text messages, if you're always immediately answering the phone on the first ring, if you're rearranging your life and your schedule to accommodate his needs when he has not placed a commitment on the relationship, you gotta stop. If he always has access to you now, what is the incentive for him to put a label, put commitment in place, for him to cut off other people, for him to take you seriously if you're giving him everything without that? You gotta think about it. #2, you don't understand what men actually value in relationships. And I know there's been a lot of conversations about this. Kevin Samuels, rest his soul, he had a lot of conversations just exposing the way that women think men value something different than what men actually value in relationships, and vice versa. Men value different things from women than what women value from men. So I want you to think about that. What are you leading with within these relationships? And is that something that men actually want in a partner that they want to settle down with, that they potentially want to marry? And of course, those are things that are definitely personal and within the relationship, where you have to decide, what do you even want out of this relationship? We're going to get into that a little bit more a little bit later, right after this. But you have to really think about, are you giving this man what he actually wants? And I'm not saying to change yourself. I'm not saying to become and embody somebody that you are not. But you have to think, if he's not committing to me, do I know what he wants, and am I giving him what he wants? I saw something recently, and it's the idea that essentially, I think this was Kevin Samuels that said this, that within relationships, men end up imprinting themselves on women. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that as you're entering into relationships, you essentially, and I know y'all not gonna like this word, essentially you train your partner on how to deal with you. And I know the word train makes it seem like I'm talking about people as being animals, like women are not animals, men are not animals. I get it, but you do. You learn the other person, you learn how to talk to that person, you learn how to deal with that person, you learn what that person likes, and in essence, you understand what is required to get what you need from that person. And no, this is not control, this is not manipulation, this is just simple psychology. If I know that my man does not respond to me yelling at him, me talking down to him, belittling him, disrespecting him, and I know that my objective is for us to have a healthy relationship and for him to actually listen to what I'm saying, it does not behoove me to talk to him in ways in which he can't receive what I'm saying to him. And I want that to really sink in, because a lot of times we feel like people need to accept us how we are. If they can't handle me, then they don't deserve me. All of these different things. If you want this man and he requires this, then you have to either say, I'm willing to accommodate what he needs, or I'm not. And if you're not, then it behooves you to find someone who is going to put up with that, or you have a decision to make and you say, okay, this is not working and this hasn't worked X amount of times, and now I'm willing to receive that maybe I need to do something different in order to get the outcomes that I want. So I encourage you to just think about that. what does the man that you want require? What does he need? And one, are you willing to accommodate whatever that is? And two, if not, choose to go somewhere else. And then if you're not, that may be the reason why he hasn't committed. And of course, you can always ask these questions like, how can I better accommodate your needs? What are some needs that you have that I'm not quite accommodating right now? In what ways are your needs not being met within this relationship? Those are all questions that you can ask that would help you get to the bottom of what are his needs? How are you or are you not meeting those needs? And then again, making the decision on, do you want to adjust to help him get the things that he wants? And if not, then that's okay too, but you just need to communicate that. Furthermore, I want you to be careful with this one because this can go back into number one. If he is communicating that, you know, he needs these different things, he wants these different things from you, you have to put some sort of balance in place to where you're not just accommodating all of his needs, being too accessible, going back to number one, but then not requiring anything. I've had to have this conversation within my own relationships where I've said, okay, I understand what you want. I can accommodate this, this, and this. However, in order for you to get access to me in the way that you want, you're going to have to upgrade your subscription. So we can't keep putting this same title of like, we're just friends or we're just getting to know each other. That works for a little bit of time, but in order to get unlocked other privileges, you have to upgrade the subscription. And you know what? When I talk about commitment, it may make you feel like I'm talking about just being girlfriend or boyfriend, but there comes another upgrade if you want to be married, if you're a marriage-minded person, where you have to shift from girlfriend, boyfriend to fiance and then to wife and husband. So there are certain things that I'm not going to do for you if I'm just your friend, because I'm treating you like my other friends, male or female. There are certain things you're not going to get from me. Similarly, there are certain things that you're not going to get from me until I get a ring on my finger. So the upgrade from girlfriend to wife, that comes with new perks. And so you have to understand what he wants, but you have to be articulate and bold enough and courageous enough to communicate which of those features only gets unlocked if you upgrade your subscription. And that takes us into number 3. You aren't requiring anything. And that's the reason why he hasn't made a commitment. If you don't ask, you probably won't get it. I want to let that sink in. If you do not require it, you probably won't get it. People in general tend to do the bare minimum of whatever it takes to get whatever it is that they want. You may not like to hear that, and I'm sorry if you don't, but that tends to be the truth. Yes, there are some overachievers. There are some people who, you know, they just want to exceed expectations and all these different things. But if you act like you're okay with a situationship, it's very unlikely that he's going to see the need to put a label on it. Because again, he's getting access to you. He's not really having to do much in return. And if you don't press the issue, why would he? I am of the belief, and this may shake the table. I feel like every time I say this, it shakes the table. I'm going to say it again. I don't believe that men en masse just desire to get married. Yes, I think that, you know, there are men who they want to raise their kids in a 2-parent household. They want to be in monogamous relationships. But I think that most men can have that without the actual ceremony and all of the different ramifications and expectations that come with marriage. I think most men would be okay and fine with, you know, just having a lifelong partner and not necessarily tying the knot, not jumping the broom, just kind of going with the flow. I think that in general, when it comes to commitment, women tend to be the ones that push that agenda. And I think that with that in mind, we have to understand that closed mouths don't get fed. And if you want results, you have to put in some expectations. Now, I love talking about expectations and boundaries because I think that it's something that's so important that a lot of people just don't take the time to really think about or to communicate. In our head, we kind of know like what's required to have access to us, what we want, what we idealize in terms of what relationships should look like. And a lot of that is based on what we see, what our friends are doing, what our parents did, what we see on social media and TV, movies, all these different things. But I don't think a lot of us take the time to really sit and think about, what am I requiring within this relationship? And then what happens if I don't receive that, and in what time frame? There's been a new phenomenon that I've been seeing on TikTok and within my own life, where people are putting timelines on things. You have this newfound understanding that, as people say, men typically know within 6 months if they want to marry this woman. They know if she's his wife fairly quickly. It shouldn't take. And then, of course, once you know that someone is compatible and that you want to marry that person, doesn't necessarily mean that you act on it immediately, but the knowledge is there. And if after 6 months he's still like, oh, we're just going to see where this goes, I'm just hanging, like, no. Like, if you are a marriage-minded woman, you are looking for a marriage-minded man, and if he's still talking about going with the flow at year 1.5, then there is a problem. So we know that, we understand that. And so people are putting timelines in place where they're saying, if I don't receive a commitment in the form of boyfriend or girlfriend by maybe 2 months, and then if we're not ready to go to the next level after a year and a half, and then if we're not going to get, like, they're putting timelines in place, and if that's not happening, then they're ready to walk away, because the understanding is you already know. And if you already know, but you're not executing on it, then you're playing with me. And women are getting tired of getting played with. So you have to require what you want, and you have to set those expectations first for yourself, so that you can then communicate it to the person that would need to adhere to those things. I am firm in the belief that you can't hold someone accountable for something that you haven't communicated. Once I communicate something to you, I believe that I can then hold you accountable, because I believe at that point you either are incapable of meeting whatever I said or respecting what I said, or you're unwilling to respect what I said and adhere to what I said. Either way, it's a problem. But yeah. Before we get too far ahead, I want you to go down to the description box. I have a worksheet down there that you can click the link and download, and it's going to help you identify what are some of your deal breakers, what are some of your expectations, and what are some of your boundaries. So I want you to go ahead, click that, download it, and then come back, because we're going to get into the last 2 mistakes that women are making that are preventing him from committing. So go ahead and do that, and then pause the video, go ahead and do that, and then come back. All right, number 4. The number 4 biggest mistake that women are making that are preventing him from committing is that you're getting advice from people that don't know the whole story. I get it. Growing up, our family, our parents, our sister, brother, they were our go-to person for getting advice. Your best friend, we went to them, we got good advice or didn't get good advice, and we just kind of went with it because those are our people, they're our ride or dies, our day ones, and then they're down to ride for us regardless. The problem is, those people don't know the whole story. So when you're going to these people, you have the option of omitting certain parts. They don't necessarily know anything other than your perspective, and they're giving you advice based on their experiences, and sometimes it can be a projection onto you. It doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on with you, but they're feeling some type of way within their relationship or lack thereof, and then they're projecting all of those feelings and issues onto you and then giving you advice that's not helpful, actually harmful and toxic. So I want you to just be cognizant of that in not getting advice from people that don't know the whole story. You have to also just be careful in general about sharing details of what you're doing with people who are not involved in that relationship. I find a lot of times that people are communicating more with people outside of the situation than people within the situation. So if you are, and then you also have to check the source. So not only is it people that don't know the whole story, but it's people that are unhappy in their relationship, people that have never been married. Like, if you are a marriage-minded man, you're trying to get advice or validation about moving forward and proposing, it does not benefit you to go to single men or men that are cheating on their wives or women that are unhappy within their relationships or their marriage. Those things don't really benefit you. And so you have to check the source. You have to just also have some sort of discernment and be a little selective in choosing who you're seeking counsel from. And you want to obviously choose unbiased parties, because you never know what other people are going through. You never know what other people's motives are. And some people, unfortunately, don't really want you to be happy. And so they will capitalize on giving you advice that does not serve you. All right, so now we're down to the last one. Number 5 biggest mistake that women are making that are keeping him from committing is ignoring the red flags. So in this conversation, I do want to also just acknowledge the fact that there is a such thing as green flags. I'm going to have another video talking about that, because I don't think people talk about it enough. We talk about red flags and all these things that you need to stay away from and run in the opposite direction, but there are also green flags, so stay tuned for that conversation. But regardless, this is a mistake that women are making. When you ignore the red flags, you're signing up to be disappointed. So I want to also just acknowledge, slight step to the side, that everything that you don't like is not necessarily a red flag. I think a red flag, again, is an opportunity for you to communicate, an opportunity for you to say, okay, I saw that this happened and I don't like this, or I would prefer that next time this situation presents itself that you consider doing this, or, you know, this, I would be able to better receive what you're trying to say to me if you don't yell and if you instead do this. Sometimes the things that we're seeing as negative behaviors and red flags in someone are simply evidence that no one has held them accountable in the past for the same behavior. Now, yes, there are some people who just believe this is who I am, you need to take it or leave it, like we talked about earlier. And in those cases, you just gotta go, just move on. But you can't know if it's a behavior that just has never been brought to their attention as being something that's negatively impacting you, or if they really just are set in their ways and just wanting to be disrespectful. You don't know that until you say something about it. And then also, some things that are red flags are not necessarily universal. So just because you have a requirement for something and they can't meet that requirement, it doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. It just might mean that they're not a good fit for you. So that's why, again, it's important to understand what are your boundaries, what are your deal breakers, what are your expectations, and then a red flag is anybody who doesn't meet those things and does not care to meet those things, or is incapable of meeting those different standards. So that's why, again, go ahead to the description box, download that deal breaker, boundary, and expectation worksheet, and then that'll help you get a better gauge for those things and those things that are important to you, so that you can start to hold other people accountable for those things. So yeah, those are the 5 biggest mistakes that women are making that are preventing men from committing. But before we go, I want to talk about the number 1 strategy that you can use to get him to commit in 30 days. So if you're already in a situation where you've done all that you can do, I'm tired of auditioning for love, I have nothing else to show you at this stage, because to get to the next level of what you want, you have to upgrade your subscription, you need to implement the no contact rule. And I've been seeing this on TikTok as something that I think women are kind of just figuring out as a thing to do, but I've been implementing this for a few years. So I am going to have another video that talks about exercising detachment, but the no contact rule is undefeated, because again, absence does tend to make the heart grow fonder if it's somebody that you actually care about, if your heart actually recognizes this person as someone that is valuable in their life. But If you're not familiar with what that is, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory, at the point where you've had enough, where you've done all that you can do, you have to remove yourself from the equation. Again, it's very difficult to value and cherish something as it is there in front of you all the time, always accessible, and you have to be courageous enough and strong enough to just say, I'm going to walk away. I promise you, if he cares about you, if your impact in his life is substantial, no contact will reveal that to him. Furthermore, if it is not enough to get him to do what needs to be done, you have a decision to make as well. Either you can just deal with the no commitment and deal with whatever parameters he's putting around it and whatever he's saying, you can choose to believe that, or you can move on. But here's the thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of. When you implement no contact, it needs to be no contact, meaning do not check on me. We do not need to have any more conversations. Do not text me. Do not send me things on TikTok or in my DMs on Instagram. Don't send me anything. Do not talk to me. Cut him off. If you need to block him, do that. If you need to unfriend him on Facebook, then do that. No contact. Don't look at what he's doing. Don't give him any attention, because you have to have him feel your absence. So that's the way to go. But also, don't go back on what you set when you told him not to contact you anymore. So if you say, I don't want to talk to you until you're ready to commit, until you put a label on, whatever you're saying it is, until you propose, blah, 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 whatever that is, whatever standard expectation you set, when he comes back, because he will, he's going to come back even if he's not wanting to do what you are saying. When he comes back, then you have to double down on what you said. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm just going to see where it goes now. Like, no, don't do that. When he calls or shows up at your door, say, are you ready to talk about the last conversation that we had? That's what you do. If he said, I'm just trying to chill, like, can we just go eat? Can we do? No, we cannot go eat. You can sit down and we can have this conversation. And if you don't want to have that conversation, then you can go. Please do not contact me anymore. Please do not call me anymore until you're ready to have that conversation. I've already set the expectation of what's required to have access to me. And if you cannot respect that, then that's disrespectful to me and what I requested of you. And I would prefer not to speak to you in that instance. I'm telling y'all, if he cares, it works. Okay? So that is it. That is the number one strategy to get him to commit. If it does not work and you've followed all of the steps that I just said, then it's time for you to move on, because he doesn't care. Okay? So again, that is the 5 biggest mistakes that women are making that are preventing him from committing. I hope that this was valuable to you. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this as a part of the relationship series, then I encourage you to check out the other items in this playlist, and I will see you next time in the next video. I am premiering all of these videos, so you can go ahead and see what's scheduled as the next video and get caught up on any past videos as well if you're watching this after the others have premiered. So yeah, I will see you guys next time, and happy dating.